What's up, guys? I'm Shawnthebro. We are here today for another programming tutorial. I hope you are having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. 2 a.m. It's fine. I get it. Sometimes you get the incentive to start working on something. It could be any time of the day. So I've done a lot of these in the past. I mean, a lot of these. Probably 30 of these videos at least. But I always kind of did them in a way that was, oh, here's some mechanics, or here, this will get you a base Super Smash Bros. Game. This will get you a base Street Fighter game, base Castlevania game, whatever. Top-down shooter. We've covered a bunch of these. But I wanted to make one today where I'm going to go each step of the process with you, and by the time I'm done with this tutorial, I will have a full game ready. And that way, if you're following along, you can also have a full game ready. And our games can differ because I can have different art assets, or I can supply some art assets, that are free on the store, tag some ones that I really like. And then that way we can actually make a game together. And in that, I figured I should start at the beginning. I should probably start at the very beginning of everything that we're going to be doing. So, depending on the kind of size of game that you're making, it could take a very long time to make a video game, but you can also make a pretty compelling, enjoyable game in a few short hours even. That's where game jams come in. So if you put a lot of effort into it, and if you have an idea and you just roll with it, you can actually get a lot done in a little bit of time. So I'm going to cut these videos probably into like 10 to 30 minute segments, and I'll do one a week, or every week that I can. I have, some busyness in my life that can sometimes prevent me from putting out a video, but I'm going to be doing this a lot more regularly, and I'm going to follow this process from beginning to end. So I hope you guys will stay with me and make a game with me. A lot of you have been asking me to do this, and a lot of you have been very supportive, and I'm seriously grateful for you. For Lucky Lucy, thank you very much. I know you've been talking about the Unreal series a lot. I appreciate it, and I hope this makes you happy. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say to get started, but I think that's it. So, guys, let's get into it. So, I'm going to program in Unreal. Specifically, I believe this is UE18. I can check through properties, but it's not really that important. It's going to be the same kind of style. Even 22, which is one of the most recent versions, is still going to be basically the exact same setup as it is now. You just have more functionality within. So it doesn't really matter the version you're on, but I will put links in the description for both Unreal 4, or Unreal Engine 4, which is this interface that you're seeing now, and Visual Studio, which is where we're actually going to be doing the coding. I'll put the links to the free editions of both of those in the description. Feel free to grab those. If you do have other programming tools, you can make it work using this tutorial, but obviously you'll have to know a little bit about programming, since you'll be either using Unity or your own engine. It's not going to be exactly the same as Unreal. So this is going to be a real short video. But let's go over today, basically how to make a new project, what to include in your project, how to start adding code, start adding blueprints, and to make a new level. Let's basically do all that. That way, when next episode comes around, we can jump right into the programming side of things, and you'll have a good grasp of where everything's at in Unreal, how to access your coding files, and how to update them so that it shows in Engine, so that you can actually see results in the game. So this is Unreal Engine 4, which I think I've said like 3 times now. But this is the main interface. So I have this default level here. I can't remember if I actually added this floor or not. I know in 422 there's a little bit extra things. There's a few extra things in the default levels, but it doesn't matter. The default level is not really important right now, but it'll just be something we're using to test. So if you want to make a new project, you'll be in one of two screens. You'll either be at the Unreal Engine screen, but this will be pitch black because this is the first time that you loaded an Unreal Engine project, or it's possible that you can actually launch it from the Epic Games Store and create a new project from there. So wherever you're doing it, that's fine. All you need to know is that if you download the file in the description, you'll get the engine, or at least a link to download the engine. You might have to go somewhere else, because if you have... I know there's ways to get it on Mac. I'm not sure if it's the same. I've never tried. But get this software however you can. It's totally free. And then you can either do create new project, or, like I said, go through the game store. So in the new project, you'll usually have a lot of templates here. And these templates will be first person, third person, racing, platforming, 2D, VR, all sorts of things like that. I actually don't have them because I deleted them for space reasons. We're not going to use it for the purposes of this tutorial, so you can start with a blank project as well. However, feel free to grab one of the other templates. They come with a lot of good functionality and a lot of starting functionality, so if you're new to programming, it can be very helpful. This is Blueprint specifically. Blueprint is basically visual scripting, so it's coding that you do without actually typing a lot of... You don't type things that get compiled. What you do is you search for nodes, they're called Blueprint nodes, and you connect them together. So you don't have to know the syntax of coding to be able to do this, which is really cool. It is a little bit heavier in terms of you have to do a lot more work to get a simple function done. And it is also pretty hard on memory. Some people actually argue that it's not, but in all the cases I've seen, a strictly Blueprint project is usually a lot more data than a strictly code project. So we're probably going to mix up both, because blueprints are actually great for things like HUD and UI, user interface and heads-up display. But we're going to start with a C++ project because we're going to be mainly coding. So basic code, you can do it on a mobile or tablet if you want to make it into that. I'm going to do it on desktop. Quality, you can, again, do 2D or 3D if you want. I'm keeping it maximum. And I would enable starter content, at least getting started. You can always delete it later. Again, not sure. I think I deleted most of it, if not all of it, so I probably won't have anything additional, but I would suggest this. And then you're just going to have your path and your name. I already made one. That's the one I'm in, so I'm not actually going to hit create project, but once you hit create project, you'll be at a screen like this. So let's go over exactly what's going on here, because it looks like there's a lot. Stuff is kind of not that important right now. This stuff is kind of terrain building and artistic stuff. So it's stuff to make your levels look nicer, but we're not going to be worried about pretty much any of that, probably for the entire tutorial, so don't worry about those. These are things that you can drag into the scene. They're not necessarily the most important, because the way we'll be doing it is dynamically. So we'll be able to enter a spot in code or in Blueprint that we want, and we will put things in, again, through code. So you won't have to manually drag these in. However, if you want to manually drag these in, you can see we already have a player spawn here and the floor. You can click on whatever you want. If I could get around here and click on this, there we go. This is a player spawn. So I can set a player to spawn here, and this will be where he is. So if we have a level set up in this scene and we're like, oh, we want a player here and we want a boss here, you could do this. And you could rotate him and make them face each other or whatever. It's not important because we're not going to be really doing it that way, but this is what this is for. It can be helpful, particularly when you're testing something that you want to get a quick test in for. But basically, we can ignore the rest of this, honestly. Let's look at the bottom here. This is your content browser, so this is where you can add new files. You can right-click and add them, or you can hit Add New. Your output log should also be here, which basically tells you any sort of notifications you'll need. If things loaded, if there were errors, and most importantly of all, you can write things out to the output log in case you need to see them. So if you're not sure if a certain piece of code is getting hit, or if you're trying to debug something, you'll actually be able to log errors here, and it'll help you greatly figure out where the problem is. This section on the right is the component tab, or the details tab. Basically, you click on an object and it will give you all the initialized stuff for it. Sorry about that. A little bit of a tongue twister. Not really, but I was having trouble saying it. So basically, you have whatever you need here when the object is being loaded in. So for this player start, you're going to need the location of where it's at. The player start tag can be determined if you want, like, oh, only certain teams can use this player spawn point, or things like that. You have actor hidden in game, which is basically if he's invisible in the game. The player spawn itself is not rendered in the game, so that's a special case. But if you had, say, this floor that I have now, if I had actor hidden in game checked like this floor would not be showing up. It would not be visible in the game when you're playing it. So you can do little things like that. Again, other things we can do through code, but I'm just trying to get you set up on the engine itself so you have all the tools available to you. Lastly, you have the world outliner, and what that does is it'll just show you all the objects that are in your scene. So you can click on one and it'll bring you to it, and then you can modify it from there. This stuff up here, you can save the scene. This is source control. This is extremely important. We're not going to go over it today because we're not really going to make any changes today. We will go over it in the next episode, probably at the start of the next episode. But what source control is it will keep all of your changes. So say you make a bunch of changes and you have the game in a working condition that you want to use or that you want to save it at. Especially if you want to try something risky and you're not sure if it's going to ruin something else that you made, you can use source control to save that version of the game and then come back to it if things go wrong. In group projects, it's really helpful because you can have, and this is pretty much how a work environment is, you can have people from different areas of the team submitting things, and, the project is changing, but you might not always want what people have, or people might break the build when they're pushing something up there. So you don't want to have it where you have this one actual project, and if something goes wrong, you're screwed. You want to have working versions in the past that you can go back to. So we're going to set this up because this is great practice, and it will help you a ton. But we will do this next episode. This stuff's pretty all self-explanatory. The one thing I do want to point out up here is the Blueprints tab. You can open the level blueprint from this, and you can do something silly. I'll show you. This is the visual scripting I was telling you about. Again, something we will get into later. But how this works is you have these nodes here. And say I just want to print text to the screen. Print string. All you do is type this in. It does all the coding back end. And then you just give it the argument here. So the in string. So we say, hello. Thanks for watching my programming tutorial. And then you can save this blueprint, which is the level blueprint, and we'll call it feature level, something like that. And then here's where you can play it. So you can play this on whatever. If you press play right away, you'll actually be in this mode, where you see things in this viewport. However, the easiest way to test it, in my opinion, is to launch it through the new editor window, Pi, which is Play in Editor. So if you do this, then you have this extra screen that comes out, and then you can move it around. You don't have to worry about it being all squished in the engine. It's just really nice. So that's easy enough. With the level itself that I mentioned, which I have one saved, and I saved this one over it because they're technically different. Basically, and if you look in the top left corner of this window, you can change the duration, but I just left it 2 seconds for testing. You'll see, hey, thanks for watching my programming tutorial in blue text. There you go. So that's as easy as blueprints are. So they're extremely helpful. So if you've never tried coding before, I'll help you follow along in blueprints. That way you don't necessarily have to code right off the bat, and you can still learn. If you're feeling like you can, then you can also go for the code right away. It's up to you. Whatever's easiest. A lot of people prefer one over the other. Some people like to mix it up. Hey, it's whatever you want, really. So that covers everything that I wanted to cover except for Visual Studio. So let's I don't want to go over Visual Studio at the moment because I want to do that next episode when we're actually programming, and I have to go into all that code. That's probably going to be a long episode. I wanted to keep this one short. But what I do want to do is I want to click into it. Now, my license is actually expired for this, and I have a new license to put in. This was on my school license, and I haven't been using Visual Studio on my personal computer, so it's going to say that my license has expired, and that's fine. We're going to ignore that for now. But basically, when you load into Visual Studio, you will have a bunch of stuff that you probably won't understand since it's the first time you're looking at it. Don't worry about that. You just want to be able to make sure you can open it and get a screen like this. The first time you open it, you won't have you won't have anything in recent. You might not have news because sometimes that depends on the version. What else? You won't have some of these toolbars because they're things that I custom did. But as long as you have this, as long as you can open Visual Studio and you have new project and open project. If you're having issues with the free version where you can't get on and it's telling you to exit Visual Studio, there are licenses you can get, but you can get them for free. So I would highly recommend using the free version. So I'm going to exit Visual Studio, and I will fix that up for next time so that you guys can see that. But if you can open Visual Studio and you can open Unreal and you have all these tabs here and understand what they do, you'll be in great shape for the next episode. We're going to make the player controller. So what the player controller does is it allows you to actually move the character around. So if you look here, we have a default one already. We can look, we can move, and we can collide with objects. So that's actually a mix of the character, pawn, and player controller, but we're going to be focusing on the player controller, so don't get too worried about the terminology until next time. But yeah, so this is what we can already do without even having changed any code, just because Unreal comes with a lot of base functionality. In the next episode, we will apply movement to a character, jumping to a character, and let's say crouching. We'll do all three of those things, and we will have gravity, not just this flying around spectator mode type of thing. And I will also go over just a lot of you. So that's actually going to be it for today, believe it or not. I just wanted to familiarize you with this. I have to actually write the code to do all this. And I have to I want to get some assets to show you guys. Have this up here and have something kind of flashy as well to show your friends, family, whatever. So I'm going to get all that together. And I'll be working on this over the weekend. And I'll have another episode for you out next weekend or sometime throughout the week. So just keep an eye out for it. If there's anything that you want to see in particular, let me know. Now is the perfect time to let me know before we get started on searching for any particular thing. I was just going to do like programming basics and then figure out which way I want to take the game. If you have an idea, you're like, I want to see a platform adventure game. I want to see a 3D, like a third person platforming game or something like that. Let me know. Let me know if you want me to use any particular theme. We can make it fun. We can do like a let's program together kind of deal here. So I think that's it for today, but thank you guys so much for watching, for real. I will post at the end of this video, I'll have an outro. On the outro, I will have links to 2 other programming tutorials that I made, and every future video, at least in this series, will have videos to the previous programming tutorial that I uploaded. That way, if you're new to programming, you can kind of follow out step by step what we've been doing to get to where we are now. And with that, guys, I'm going to head out. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your ideas, and I can't wait to see you in the next one, guys. Let's make a game together. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you next week.